Michael, I'm pissed. I'm very, very pissed. And do you know the reason why I'm pissed?
No.
Well,
Sorry.
okay. Well, you should, because Venom has moved. Venom has moved once again. Another release date change. They keep on changing this fucking movie, man, and it pisses me off because I keep on having to fit it into new places. I keep having to like move around what films we're going to review. And you know what? The fucking company who makes Venom?
Sony.
Is it Sony? Yeah, it's Sony.
Yeah.
What they should do, they've made their bet in it. They should just lie in it, okay? Right? If it's gonna get like $16 million on its opening weekend, like Suicide Squad did, do it. Right? Take the bullet, okay? Like I'm so sick and tired of these movie executives not considering our podcast. I'm thinking they can just move their film release around. Because of course, Venom: Let There Be Carnage is a movie that's coming out. We're gonna review Venom when it comes out, and it's just so annoying for me. Like this happened all last year. I put up with it, but this year, like they're releasing movies all the time. There's no excuses. So get your act together, man. That's all I'm saying.
Venom, more like Venom, gonna change the time the film's released.
What?
Venom gonna change the time the film's released.
Yeah. What does Venom mean?
It's like Venom.
Oh, then I'm. Oh,
yeah.
Then. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke. And this week we are celebrating the 15-year anniversary of the movie film Borat by looking at the movie film Borat. So Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Borat, Cultural Learnings of America for Make Benefit Glorious Nation of Kazakhstan?
Sure thing, Michael. As you said, it's been 15 years since this movie has come out. And, you know, I think maybe when we did Lady in the Water, I said we don't normally do 15-year anniversaries. We only save them for special occasions. But I feel like we've done quite a few 15-year anniversaries.
Yeah, you proved yourself to be a liar.
I know, but there's just so many great movies that came out in 2006. And here's another one, Borat. So, Borat, also known as... Borat, Cultural Learnings of America from Make Benefit Glorious Nation of Kazakhstan, or simply Borat, is a 2006 mockumentary comedy film directed by Larry Charles and starring Sacha Baron Cohen. Baron Cohen plays the leading role of Boyet Sajayev. It also stars Ken Daviton and Lunel and Pamela Anderson, which we shall also get to. Do you know who wrote this, or who the story was by, I guess? One of the people involved.
I remember there was the credits, and it said it was by like 4 people.
Yes.
One of whom was Sacha Baron Cohen. I believe the other one was probably the director, and the other one was, I don't know, presumably an answer that's kind of interesting. Rian Johnson.
Well, it says the screenplay and the story are 2 different people, which is kind of weird. But the story is by Sacha Baron Cohen, Peter Bainham, Anthony Hines, and Todd Phillips. Todd Phillips from Joker, of course, the director of Joker. He was in on this movie. Michael, the movie Borat was released by the way, one of the production companies. Can you guess what one of the production companies?
Weinstein?
No.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's again. I would assume it's a funny company.
I'm not being funny. I'm just saying. Well, of course, Borat was on a TV show, wasn't he?
Oh yeah. So I mean, I guess it would have been like Film 4.
Channel 4.
Yeah, Channel 4.
Channel 4. Yeah, of course, he was on that Ali G show. Before he did this movie. So the release date was the 2nd of November 2006 in the United Kingdom, 1 day later in the United States. And Michael, can you tell me what the budget was for Borat?
Oh, that's actually a really interesting question, which I never really thought about. I guess the thing is, the budget, in this case, I would assume the cast wouldn't cost too much because most of the people are literally like extras. But I would assume there would be a lot of kind of costs involved with the production in terms of like traveling and things like that. But how much? I mean, like 8 million?
18 million.
Okay.
18 million, yeah, for all the lawyers they have to hire.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that too, yeah.
Yeah, but no, I don't think the lawyers are involved in the budget. But yeah, it is probably a bit more than I would have thought, but, you know, not too high. What about the box office? How much did Borat make at the movie theatres, Michael? How much did it make?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously this film, I think, was quite a cultural phenomenon. Lots of people were talking about it. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean lots of people paid to go see it exactly, but I would assume it would imply that. So maybe it made I still don't think it would have made like a huge amount, but maybe like over 200 million, like maybe 280 million.
Oh, that's a very good guess, Michael. I have to say, you thought about that. Well, it's 262.
Okay,
So
good.
yeah, very good guess there, I'd say. So Michael, that's the background of Borat. Did you like this movie?
You know, I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was funny, and I had a pleasant experience while watching this film.
Okay. Yeah.
What did you think?
Yes, I had a very pleasant experience watching Borat late last evening. No, I think this is a great movie. I really like it. I find it hilarious. It is extremely funny, and of course we'll get into the humor and everything, and whether it's okay to make the jokes that Borat made, I guess. But I'll just say, I found it. I found it really funny. There's so many moments where I laughed. Like when I watch a lot of comedy movies or just comedy in general, I don't laugh that much. I think this is something that always pains me because I don't know. I feel like many people, they can enjoy things by laughing like loudly, and I never laugh at stuff.
Yeah.
But this one, there was at least 3 times where I literally like laughed out loud, and that is incredibly impressive.
Yeah, I mean, see, I would say I am much more of a laugher with films, or a laugher if you're wrong.
Sorry, is there an R in laugher?
No, yeah, I mean, yeah. But no, yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I've said before, like, comedy is subjective, at least in some sense. Like, ultimately, it's entirely possible that you could have said, like, I didn't find it funny at all. And if you said that, I wouldn't be able to be like, you're wrong, you did. But obviously, it's good that in this case we happen to agree. But yeah, certainly in this case, like, I could maybe understand somebody just being like, saying this humor just didn't work for them at all. But yeah, I would definitely agree with you that for me, this humor, it really hit the spot. And there were actually a lot of times where I was just laughing to myself like a real loser. Because I'm a very expressive film watcher.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yes.
But no matter how much we liked the film, we always have nitpicks.
Well,
I don't have nitpicks because the thing is, like, you can't really nitpick this film because like it's it's literally reality.
Yeah, again, I think it'd be pretty impossible to nitpick. The one thing I was thinking of the nitpick is like when the frat bros they put on the sex tape of Pamela Anderson. The thing is, Borat has already brought it. And so it's like, well, why is Borat surprised by the sex tape if he's the one who's bought it? And
I think the best way to have explained that, like if they wanted to avoid that potential nitpick, would be that he's got just like loads of Pamela Anderson paraphernalia, such that you can understand why he would just own loads of it and not necessarily have seen it.
That's what I was thinking. It's like, oh, I see a DVD with her, like, I buy it, I'll watch it later. I don't know, that kind of can be explained.
And they could have set it up too. They could have had a scene of him when he goes to see that gypsy woman.
The gypsy woman, yes. Okay, so. Let's get into the concept first of this, of Borat. So, it is, of course, based on a character around Baron Cohen's, from Baron Cohen's The Ali G Show, which ran from 2000 to 2004. And basically, Borat was a character in a lot of these episodes. And therefore, Baron Cohen thought, well, I think he did some interviews with American people beforehand, and it's like, hey, you know what? We could make this into a movie, and it could be really funny. And he was right. He was right. So basically, of course, it's a mockumentary. Michael, do you know what a mockumentary is?
Yes, it's a portmanteau of documentary and mock.
Yes, it's a very clever name. But that's the thing. It's a real life mockumentary.
Yeah, because usually because like The Office was a mockumentary, but that was obviously like all of the people in it were actors.
Yes, same for Parks and Recreation as well, and Modern Family. But yeah, this isn't. This is just, it's real life, basically. Much of the film, this is from Wikipedia, features unscripted vignettes of Borat interviewing and interacting with real-life Americans who believe he is a foreigner with little or no understanding of American customs. Except for Borat, Asmat, Linnell, and Pamela Anderson, none of the characters are portrayed by actors. Most scenes in the film were unscripted. In most cases, the film's participants were given no warning on what they would be taking part in, except for being asked to sign release forms agreeing not to take legal action against the film's producers. That's the concept. And obviously, if your character is funny, it can work, but it does require you capturing like golden moments from your unsuspecting participants in the movie. Now, the concepts you create and the interviews you set up, they can achieve that, but it is relying basically, you're going into it, just every scene that Sacha Baron Cohen does, he's probably thinking like, well, I hope something, you can't like bank on anything, you can't write it, so he's like, well, I hope they give me something good here. And thankfully in this movie, a lot of people gave him a lot of good stuff, didn't they?
No, yeah, I mean, I think the reality is that it also speaks to like Sacha Baron Cohen's like ability as a character actor, because certainly like I think a lot of, you think about how in a lot of films you have outtakes and you have bloopers, and in this case you couldn't really have outtakes and bloopers, because outtakes and bloopers are literally when the actor breaks character and like fails to perform. That's kind of what a blooper is. And in this case, Sacha Baron Cohen literally can't break character because the people he's talking to believe that he is, really this Kazakhstani reporter. So yeah, I think it's a very strong testament to his kind of comedic abilities, or his acting abilities, I suppose. And because me personally, like I think, and you'd agree, like it would be hard not to crack up. But yeah, apparently lots of comedians are just not good at laughing at their own material.
No, I can understand that, because if you think about like it's probably a process when before Borat goes into an interview, he's like, right, this is what I'm going to say, this is how far I'm going to try and get them to go, etc. And he really, Sacha Baron Cohen really plans it out. So it's like when he says something ridiculous, it's like, this is what I'm going to say at this point, and then if they keep going with it, then I'll go on to the next point, etc. And I mean,
it's basically improv, like the comedy in some sense.
Yeah, well, I think he does plan it out. Some of it is definitely improv, obviously, but I think he just plan out a lot of the things he's going to say beforehand as well. When he's talking to the comedy tutor, I guess, and he's talking about his retarded brother Billo.
That was probably
That's like
out.
that. I'm definitely going to say this beforehand, and I think with him, it's just a question of hoping that people play along, and obviously that did happen quite a bit.
Also, just one other thing, sorry, on the concept, it also like helps with kind of like the hidden camera aspect, because I was thinking about how like you compare this to something like Jackass, where the whole point is they have to have a hidden camera, because the people being filmed, like most of the time, they're not supposed to know they're being filmed. Like that's quite a common thing for prank shows, and yet in this case you can literally prank somebody while filming them, and they know they're being filmed. That probably
helps. It probably helps, because it's like, well, okay, this is clearly I'm on camera. I can't be too angry. I can't just swear. I have to like be more gentle. Be more gentle with them. And obviously we don't see all of the conversations, but what I suspect Sacha Baron Cohen does is he says a lot of normal things, asks like quite a lot of normal questions, and then like once every 5 like questions or statements he says something crazy, and that gets put in the movie, and then he says 5 more normal things to like simmer it down, and then something else crazy, but you don't see those normal questions, and that is
I think
that is
totally
a brilliant way to basically, because that's the thing, if you're there in real life, you're like, well, he's there are some weird things he's saying, but overall he's like quite a nice guy, so I'm gonna stick with it. But obviously when you do the editing and it comes out, it just looks like this guy's crazy. So I think that is probably a tactic that he does, and of course it's very effective.
Although I think it means that like some people, especially I heard this with like Bruno, like a lot of people didn't realize how much of that was completely improv and like not scripted, and I think probably it's like a similar thing of, because all you see is the completely insane stuff and the like absolutely like some might say like offensive and certain like awkward things that are being said, and then you're just seeing the character, the people being interviewed going along with it, you might assume, well, they're obviously like plants, they're obviously paid, they're obviously performers. But I agree with you, what probably happens is he comes across as normal in general, and then just slides in those little moments that reveal things, and that's also probably why like the people say things that they wouldn't like, are comfortable saying these things, because I think if he did just come in like so strong right off the bat, then I imagine their prank alarms would be going off like 100%.
I think about the guy who in the gun store, where he said, is this a good gun to kill a Jew with, or whatever. He's asking about that, and that's the first thing you hear him say. And I imagine beforehand he asked quite a lot of questions about the guns, and that was like like I said, like the 5th thing he said. And so it's like, okay, this guy isn't that crazy. He's but of course to us that's what it seems like. So it's but no, it's that's probably what happens. And if you set up good scenarios, if you're a good character actor, if you're naturally funny like Sacha Baron Cohen is, you can get, like I said, some really good stuff. So let's get into the actual plot of this movie, Michael. the
meticulously crafted plot.
Oh yeah, definitely. So here's the thing. It's just I said it before. It's just much of the film is unscripted vignettes of Borat interviewing and interacting with real life Americans who believe he is a foreigner. And basically, the premise is that Borat is a fictional Kazakhstani journalist who is traveling through America to make a documentary which features real-life interactions with Americans for cultural understanding, so he can bring back to his country and show, hey, maybe we could do this or do this. I don't know. They don't really go into much detail about that, which, of course, is kind of understandable because that's not what you're really there for. Like, who cares? Like, that's what I think. Who cares, really, if the plot isn't that great? It's just those... As long as there is a bare-bone narrative that threads together these scenes, which there is, that's all you need. And that's what the movie is. It's just Borat going to a lot of different places. I think in the beginning, a lot of the scenes could be put in any order, like at the start of the movie.
Yeah.
But then once he finds out about Pamela Anderson, a lot of the movie is him basically making up excuses to do things because of the Pamela Anderson storyline, or he's doing stuff because of the Pamela Anderson storyline, and it all works well. That is the driving force, and he just wants to explore America, and you only need that that Pamela Anderson thing, and yes, I'm exploring America because of Kazakhstan. That's all you really need. That's all I'm asking for out of this movie, because it's not really about the plot. It's just about what interviews he can do, what can Sacha Baron Cohen and this character Borat come up with. And so it completely works for me. I'm fine that the plot isn't that. It's just basically bare bones. What do you think?
No, because basically I think if it literally was just like he's going to travel around and not really to no purpose, I think it would be a slightly inferior film. But I think just that tiny bit of like, he's going to go find Pamela Anderson, and obviously that does mean, and like it's something which comes up sort of, it's almost like a trickle throughout the plot. Like you kind of get, for example, his fight with his manager, and then obviously you get the interaction with the frat boys. I think obviously, it just so happens when he goes to see the woman doing the roadside or like yard sale, I guess what it's called. I don't know whether or not that was like planted, the Baywatch thing, but if it was planted, well, then that's clever, and if it happened to be there, well, that's lucky. But like the thing is, it's kind of, and of course there's also the reincorporation aspect. Like one of the final lines is it's like, I don't love you anymore, not, which is obviously was brought up by the comedy thing, so it's kind of like that reincorporation aspect too being brought into the plot. So overall, I think the introduction of a plot was very well handled.
Well handled. I'm not sure I would be like well handled more than just like, hey, we got what we needed, Like we did what we needed to do with this plot. With he's going after Pamela Anderson, and of course tries to kidnap her at the end for the finale, which was staged.
Yeah, unfortunately, she was in on it. Because otherwise, I don't think you can kidnap somebody as a prank.
No,
unless you're Sam Pepper.
Yeah, he'd definitely go to jail for that. Would Baron Cohen? So she needed to be in on it for it to work. Or maybe Pamela Anderson wouldn't have pressed charges. I don't know, but I think in that situation, for Sacha Baron Cohen's safety as well, if like one of his bodyguards got near him or one of her bodyguards.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, there's definitely are moments. I mean, you mentioned the camera being there, but there are definitely moments where I think he could not be in a great situation.
Well, that was one of those instances because the bodyguard would be like, I absolutely have, I could injure him. I have definite precedent to do this, but of course that wasn't necessary because it was staged. But anyway, so we're going to get into the actual what goes on in this movie, Michael, and there are 3 categories which we have basically come up with.
Yes.
For exploring the comedy in this movie. They are one of the categories is making fun of Kazakhstan, where Borat comes from, of course. The next one is basically trying to get Americans to be as uncomfortable as possible, basically trying to see how much these people will put up with. And the third category is basically exposing America and Americans. Just basically going into the underbelly of America, seeing what these people really think and really act like. The large percentage of Americans, who at the time would. I think obviously, actually, we'll talk about that when we get to it, Michael. We'll talk about that.
Let's talk about it. First of all, let's talk about and I guess it's convenient we start off with the presentation of Kazakhstan, because obviously the first, I can't really think what is it. I think this film definitely has a fast pace, so it's probably not as long as it feels like, but the first part of the film is, and probably the only bit that's scripted, very much so, and isn't about interviewing people and things like that, is when he's in Kazakhstan, which is basically setting up the story and the predicament of the film by showing how poor and dirty and disgusting and uneducated Kazakhstanis. So, what did you think of that?
This is the town rapist. Naughty, naughty. Yeah, and I love it at the end where he when Borat's leaving, he wags his finger at him again.
Well, I thought the bit I liked at the end. I mean, this isn't the town rapist, but it's one of the favorites is when he's in the car and then they pan forward and the car is being towed by a horse.
Yeah, no, that's one of the bits I put down as well. That was great.
Yeah, I read that.
Yeah, and it's and you got the kid at the wheel of the car as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously he's making fun of Kazakhstan with that. You know, the town mechanic, who's also the abortionist.
Oh yeah.
His sister, who is number 4 prostitute in the whole of Kazakhstan. The fact that he has a cow in his house as well, his old mother, and the running of the bulls. But it's instead of running of the bulls, it's the running of the Jews. And then the old Jewish lady lays an egg. And all the kids go on to kick it. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. All of that stuff is of course it's like funny, but I don't think it's particularly creative. Like, look at this. There's a cow in this house. Like, yes, this car is being dragged by a horse. But the thing, what makes that horse scene so good when he's getting dragged by a car, or the horse is dragging the car, is that you see Borat just get in the car and then it pans to the left and you see the horse. That's what makes it so good. And it's the same with the cow when Borat goes into his house.
Yeah,
it's just like, you know, a shitty house, and then the camera turns around and there's just a cow there. So that's the thing. It's the camera work makes it funny. That's what really makes it good.
No, yeah, I definitely agree. Like, I think this is actually a chance to have some proper kind of like almost like a cinematic visual comedy in terms of like the actual, because obviously elsewhere, like, you know, you can't really be doing kind of proper cinematography or like setting up your shots if you're kind of doing it completely impromptu with the interviews and, you know, like the unscripted stuff. But yeah, definitely, I think this is when you just have so many great kind of just shots. Like, I really like the shot of like when he's sunbathing, and obviously, you know, I mean, the mankind's one thing, but the fact that like it's just him like by what looks like a almost like kind of a sewage works by like a power plant or something. Like, it just looks like this completely gross water. And yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's just really like, it is kind of like you say, it's not that creative. It's just like a massive stereotype of Eastern Europe, which is kind of funny because Kazakhstan isn't technically in Eastern Europe, but like you just imagine like this is what it's almost self-aware in how stereotypical it is. Which makes it quite funny.
Yeah, that's the thing. It is self-aware in how stereotypical. That is a good way to phrase it. Also, this of course happens at the end of the movie, but we can't talk about making fun of Kazakhstan without making fun of the Kazakhstani national anthem. Yeah, it's again, it's just a ridiculous song. But you know, hey,
Kazakhstan.
Yeah, Kazakhstan, number 1 producer of what was it?
Potassium.
Potassium. All of the potassium is inferior. And it's just so stupid, but it works. It just doesn't. Yeah, because it's so absurd. And yeah, obviously it put Kazakhstan on the map. You know.
Yeah, it really did. Yeah, they can't complain. And yeah, I mean, the other thing actually, I think.
Well, you say you can't complain. We'll get onto that later.
Oh yeah, yeah, actually, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I also think like it's worth noting that like the criticisms in a way that it's making are basically legitimate, like in terms of like the fact that there is a lot of, and again, like you do run into the fact that it is literally like if I were to describe this society, I would say, oh, it's just a typical like Eastern European society. It almost feels like a lot like Romania or something like that, with like the fear of gypsies and Jews and things like that. But like, it's true that there is a lot of like anti-Semitism in Eastern Europe. So with that said, to kind of lampoon that is quite a legitimate thing to do. But I just want to say, apart from the society, like also there's just the character of Borat.
That's what we're going to get
himself.
Onto next.
Yes, I thought so. Basically, the main thing I find interesting is just how like everybody, like this character is very emulatable, I think is the term. Like everyone kind of wants to impersonate him with the very nice. It's like, it's so hard not to do it just 24/7. And I think that's quite unique in a way, like just to have a character who like so easily you can just pretend to be.
Yeah.
Because of just that voice.
Yeah, his mannerisms, you know, my wife. My wife. So
you will never get this.
You will never get this.
But then he breaks the cage and he gets it.
That was not good. Yeah, obviously Borat himself, he's a racist.
Yeah.
He's anti-Semitic. He's homophobic. The best line in the movie. Are you telling me that the man who tried to put a fist in my anus was a homosexual.
It's just
and he's saying it to this serious black politician as well. Yeah, he's just like he's a great character because just how absurd he is, and well, obviously he's absurd, but yeah, it's not like I don't know. He's just like he's funny as well at the same time. You can never really take what he says like too seriously. Because of just how ridiculous he is, and that's what makes the racism and the anti-Semitism like that he comes out with funny. Like when he's talking about gypsy tears, give me your tears, gypsy, and who did you rob for this? To the was it the yard sale woman? And do not shrink me, gypsy. It's just like it's so like stupid. But and of course it's offensive, but like it's because this ridiculous guy is doing it. That's what makes it, of course, so funny. And I love the character. He is a great creation of Sacha Baron Cohen.
No, I mean, also the fact you say great creation, I think gets the fact this is quite like an original idea for a character. Because if you look at like Sacha Baron Cohen's two most famous other characters, I guess it would be Bruno and obviously Ali G. And like Ali G is basically just like a satire of your typical kind of white urban youth in the UK who like acts like a black person.
Well, I don't think Ali G's meant to be white, is he?
I think actually, I've always thought like he's not exactly white. He's kind of like I don't know. I think he's some kind of obscure ethnic. But yeah,
it's like Sacha Baron Cohen. He's he's not white.
Well, yeah, Sacha Baron Cohen's Jewish, as it happens.
Well, yeah, he's from I think his mum's from Israel.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that of course that Ali G would be. I keep on saying that Ali G. It's Ali G. Ali G. I don't think he's meant to be like white. I just think he's meant to be.
But the point is definitely not black. But yeah, like somebody who very much kind of like I mean, there's probably like a term for it, but basically a chav. Let's just say, even though obviously it's like a specific kind of chav. But the point is like that's something which has been satirized plenty in the UK, obviously.
And Bruno as well.
And in Bruno, obviously, well, the joke there is kind of like. You could just say, if you're being a little bit reductionist, say it's basically just a gay guy. And, like, obviously there's plenty of satire of, like, gay guys. Like, Bruno acts really camp. Bruno's, like, literally a guy who is, like, obsessed with, like, fashion and stuff and celebrities. And it's like, yeah, that's not a hard... Like, I'm pretty sure you even have, like, that in, like, The Simpsons. Like, but Borat, like, I can't think of any other thing I've seen where it's, like, like, you've taken the character of, like, an Eastern European and, like, turned that into... You're like, use that for your character comedy. So I think that was quite an original idea to come up with.
And also he created the Mankini as well.
Yes, exactly. The Mankini, that's the other thing.
Yeah, who could forget the Mankini? But yeah, he became obviously a phenomenon, did Borat, along with this movie. But yeah, the character, of course, is centrally this, like we said, a great creation from Sacha Baron Cohen, original and funny. And I think this is the best... This is the best time to talk about this. The brawl that Asmat has with Sacha Baron Cohen when they're or Borat, sorry, when they're obviously fallen naked and it spills out into a convention.
It's so. I mean, also, well, yeah. First of all, I do think that's like so fun, and it's actually like, I mean, that also is something where you have to say about like Sacha Baron Cohen as an actor. That's genuinely like some guy's arsehole in his face. Yeah. And he goes with it for the comedy, and you have to respect that.
You have to respect that, yeah. Of course, even though we do like it, Michael, this Borat character and what he does, there has been accusations of, racism, like mocking Eastern Europeans. And the thing is, I'm kind of fine with it. Well, it's because what you said before, like it's such an obvious like satire. And that's the thing, it's not even Kazakhstan. That's the thing. Like, I don't think Sacha Baron Cohen is saying, "Oh, they're all like this. This is what life is like in Kazakhstan." Because, it's the fact is, it's not even filmed in Kazakhstan. It's filmed in Romania. Like, he's basically saying with that, "Oh, you shouldn't take this seriously. This is all just bullshit to make you laugh about this character." And the one bit you should take seriously is, I guess, the anti-Semitism, the running of the Jews, I guess it would be. I think, of course there is anti-Semitism in Eastern Europe that does exist, but the rest is like, you shouldn't this is just funny bullshit. You shouldn't like care about this. Like, of course this is a parody, like, because it's so obvious, like a parody of everything. Like Borat is going around like saying, "Oh, this is the town rapist. This is the number 4 prostitute in Kazakhstan." Like, it's obviously so stupid. So I don't think it's being racist to Eastern Europeans, basically.
No, yeah. I mean, I think also the other issue is like, I think there's like a power dynamic with like, because obviously satirizing English people, nobody considers that a problem. But I think like some people would say, oh, well, because Eastern European culture, I guess, is like underrepresented. and like that therefore it's a problem because Sacha Baron Cohen has more like cultural capital or something, and that's puts him in a position of power. But I think the reality is that you have to some extent be able to like satirize every culture. Like we like Crocodile Dundee is like a basic massive joke about just the fact that Australians like wrestle crocodiles and stuff. It's like every single culture has like stereotypes that can be engaged in about them, and I think in this case it's perfectly legitimate.
It's so over the top though. That's the
point.
Yeah,
and that's the other thing. Yeah, like it's so like you can't even like nobody's watching this and coming out the other side thinking, oh, I guess Eastern Europeans are, or indeed Kazakhstanis, are all just like really poor, and if I go there, then they're going to have these villages where nobody, where like having a phone is considered like a luxury. And obviously that's just
they have cows in their houses. Like it's just such an obvious satire. I do remember there was this one Top Gear episode where I think Jeremy Clarkson goes to Romania.
Yeah.
All of them go to Romania, and Jeremy Clarkson was making fun of the gypsies by using the voice of Sacha Baron Cohen. It's like, well, obviously, the British, old British fucking boomers like Jeremy Clarkson, obviously they're going to take from it, this is a new racist thing, like to add to my racist palettes that I have.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and that is I guess a problem, but that's not what Sacha Baron Cohen intended. Of course.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the problem is like basically with almost anything, like as long as there are idiots on the planet, any kind of like intelligent, subtle point is going to be missed by them. So yeah, it's definitely true that I think there are probably people who enjoyed Borat for almost none of the reasons that we enjoy Borat.
That's stupid. And that's the thing, you shouldn't, like, your intention when you make shit, like, your intention matters. Like, that's the number one thing. What are you intending to do? And I don't think it's Sacha Baron Cohen is meaning to like, this like offend Eastern Europeans. I don't think he's trying to do that. Make fun of them necessarily. He's just trying to, it's just, this is where this character he created, where it comes from, and basically, well, that's the thing, like, you don't spend a lot of time actually in Kazakhstan. It's just like at the beginning for the first 5 minutes, and at the end for like 2 minutes. The rest is just America. That's when his target isn't like fucking Kazakhstan or Eastern Europe at all. Anyway, we will get on to now the next segment, Michael, which is Sacha Baron Cohen trying to get Americans to be uncomfortable, trying to see how much people will put up with. So, of course, he arrives in America, and
he has a chicken.
He has a chicken, and this is one of the places where I laugh the most. The chicken being let out in the subway. It's hilarious. Yeah.
I mean, well, that's a funny, because that literally would be. I mean, so I made a slight distinction, which is obviously like these things overlap a lot, which you pointed out when I was bringing up. But between like there's shock humor and there's like pranks, and then there's like cringe humor, and obviously like say overlap a lot. But in this case, this is like almost what I'd say like the chicken getting loose. It's kind of like a pure prank. Like you're not really like nobody's really cringing at it, I would say, and it's not particularly shocking. But it's just like having him like run around chase a chicken on the subway. Just it feels like it's a very pure experience of just like pranking somebody, and I really enjoy it. It feels very Jackass.
But that's the thing, it's harmless, and
exactly,
it's just like this chicken running around the subway. It's great, and obviously him washing his clothes in the river, greeting people like, "Hello, I'm Borat," and the guy who runs away from him.
Oh yeah. The guy just like sprints. I mean, well, that's kind of like the thing. Like, I didn't really mention this, but I've like heard like the idea that in like New York, everybody's a weirdo, or is that more of an LA thing? Maybe it's more of an LA thing. But like, I don't know, like the idea of like
both.
It's probably like a big city thing. Yeah, like you don't like the idea of like if you're like a normal person in one of those cities, you just don't want to talk to anyone ever.
Yeah,
on this.
That makes sense. Then we get on to I think the first like interview of the movie, which is the comedy tutor guy, and trying to get him to say retardation is so funny, and of course. The story about his sister shows his brother her vagine and said, "You'll never get this," and he is in his cage going crazy, and like every word just keeps getting like better and better. Like
I know,
and he's in his cage. That was just lovely little detail, and
But also, I mean, like it's kind of funny because it's almost like the comedic timing of the comedy tutor. Where I sort of just like. Yeah, we wouldn't find that funny.
Yeah, we wouldn't find that funny. Yeah, no, but it's well, I mean, a lot of Americans did find it funny, so he was.
Yeah,
wrong.
That's the thing. Yeah, he was. Yeah, so it turns, hopefully he lost his job because clearly he knows nothing about comedy.
Yeah. No, that scene is great, and obviously the feminist group
Yes.
Yes. I love the line where it says, in Kazakhstan, more than 5 women can only be in a brothel or in a grave. Just
I know, yeah,
line.
because again, that's like the poverty thing too. But no,
Yeah.
I think and he says like it comes together. It's a feminism.
Yeah, the government scientists say that women's brain is the size of squirrel, and one of the women is so sincere and says, "Your government scientist, he's wrong," and yeah, that's the best when they are so sincere, like these people dealing with Borat's ridiculousness, and then. And then when it says, when he says, "I could not concentrate on what this old man was saying," yes,
Yeah, that was my favorite one.
yeah, no, I laughed so hard at that. And again, he's just being so ridiculous. He goes, "Smile, pussycat."
Yeah. Although I will say, actually, on that one, I think that one's like another example of where like a lot of people will find that funny for the wrong reason, which I think like Borat's done that. Sorry, not Borat. Sacha Baron Cohen. I think like on the Ali G show. I've never watched the Ali G show, but I've seen like clips of it, and I know that he's interviewed feminists as Ali G as well, and kind of been like, "Hey, it's my bitch," and whatever.
Yeah.
But basically, like, I feel like a lot of people do kind of watch it. It's like, let's watch the feminists get triggered, which obviously, like, the joke is supposed to be that Borat is a massive sexist, and that's a bad thing. But I feel like a lot of people watch it to be like, look at those stupid feminists getting angry.
Yeah, that's something you can.
But yeah, like
But that's not his intention, of course.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was just gonna say, it's another example of where like it's unfortunately the world that gets in the way, because I'm sure like a lot of like, especially those frat bros. I mean, not to jump ahead, but those frat bros would be watching this film like, yeah, stupid feminist.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you get. Then they'd be watching their bit and they'd be like, yes, I'm glad he decided to include us with all our correct points.
Well, we'll get onto that.
I know. Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing with that feminist thing. Like it was a really good setup. Like and I just feel like there could have been more. Obviously, things are cut.
Yeah.
But
well, I was thinking the interviews are quite short.
Yeah, that's the thing. The movie is only an hour and 20 minutes long, and there's a lot of deleted scenes as well that we could rifle through, but we won't. But you kind of you can look up what the deleted scenes are. But yeah, it's a shame, because I was like, yeah, they could have got more out of this. I felt that like a couple of times in the movie.
There was one scene, I think. Oh, I know what it was, and maybe it's the one you're literally just about gone to. I don't know if it is yet, but the when he interviews the black guy.
Oh no, not yet.
In Baltimore.
But,
okay, well, I was just gonna say, seeing as we're almost at that, I was gonna say he literally asks like one question. I think like literally like the setup of that. He doesn't ask anything about like racial politics in America or anything like that. It's just that one thing, and that was the moment where I remember watching and thinking, okay, this feels like it could have been a bit longer. You could have got a bit more out of that.
Yeah, but maybe the guy just ended the interview after that. But of course. Like that would be it's a pretty ridiculous question, so you'd have to think that wasn't like the first or second question. That was like after a while. That's what should have happened anyway. But again, it's just surprising that the movie was as short as it was. But the feminist group again. It lasts for like 3 minutes, and I'm like, you could have got a lot more out of it. I feel like anyway. But we move on to the driving, another great part of the movie.
Oh yeah.
Again, the instructor immediately when he shows up and says, "Welcome to our country." That was perfect. Yeah, because I know this is going to be good. The perfect contrast to Borat, and him swearing at other drivers is so good. And when he then goes to the Hummer dealership, I believe, and and he asks them, if you hit gypsies, will there be damage to the Hummer? And then the guy says, well, it depends on how hard you hit them. And then Borat goes, hard, immediately. Like that was just the perfect comedic timing. That was so funny. And then obviously there's the line where he says, my wife. So I was just laughing reading it. My wife was good on the plow, but then after 3 years, when she became 15, her voice became deep and her vagine hung like sleeve of wizard. And the guy goes like, sheesh.
He's genuinely like,
shocked.
Wow.
That was the best reaction. Just like, well, I have to stay here because I'm doing this interview. But my God, man, what are you saying? That like, I literally, when I heard that, I choked up laughing that bit. Like that was, again, there's so many great moments, but that was definitely one of them. And the guy, he did seem to be kind of in on it. Like they set up like Borat buying an ice cream truck from him, which I doubt they got from that Hummer dealership. But,
I think that would have to be one wonders how it worked, because definitely. And I mean, again, I will say that was like a moment where like they did sort of waste his time a bit by then being like, oh, actually I've only got $600. So I don't know, maybe but I could almost see like maybe it was like the ice cream truck actually cost more than like $600 or something like that. Just like a theory. That's just in my head canon. Well, like actually the fact he only had $600 was kind of a joke, but then like actually they bought an ice cream truck from him. Although, how would he have an ice cream truck?
That's-
They must have
that's
bought the
the
ice cream
point
truck
I'm
from someone else. Sorry,
That's the
yeah,
point
you're
I'm
right.
making. I'm like,
Like
well,
he's got like Hummers and all that
yeah,
stuff.
obviously he didn't buy the ice cream truck from him, so that bit at the end was a setup with like, hey, can you just say I've got something for you because we're doing the show, and he probably that's the thing. He probably figured out because of how he reacted. Like he probably figured out, okay,
right,
this is like not serious, but he I guess he played along because he just wanted to
I
be
could see
polite,
that,
and he wasn't like a member of the public.
I also imagine that could explain how they got the bear, because I think there must have been something, something above board going on with them getting the bear.
Oh yeah, no. Well, the bear wasn't.
Well, in the credits, actually, it mentions the animal trainers they had.
Yeah, but the bear wasn't actually, he didn't get it with that ice cream truck. He went to that.
No, sorry, yeah, I knew that. Yeah, they went to some like zoo.
Yeah, they went to a zoo. Yeah, so but yeah, the driving instructor and the him buying a Hummer, that was absolutely great. But that's the thing with all these first few scenes, they can kind of be just placed around in different areas because of the nature of it. But then that's really it in terms of trying to make people uncomfortable. Apart from one other scene, but I also had that scene in Exposing America and Americans.
Yes.
This is why this scene is so good, because it's kind of both. What did you want to talk about with this, Michael?
This is the dinner party scene. It's several. I mean, the thing is, like, I think it's also true that a lot of like the Exposing America scenes, like, there is a certain cringiness to it, and so obviously, like, there is like the idea of cringe humor. I think it's something that a lot of like reality shows rely on, and I guess in a way this is like reality shows when you watch like things like Come Dine With Me, where like the whole setup is like you have these awkward conversations and stuff, and this is just an example of that, where you have, obviously we've mentioned how this is about making people uncomfortable. What happens when people are uncomfortable? You cringe. And definitely like that dinner party, I think one of the moments was when so you know the one where Borat goes like he's just like got the kind of like the wife introducing him. He says, in my country they would go crazy for these two. Not so much. And it's just like, you can't, like, oh wow, just calling somebody like, it was just so, like, I was just like, oh, okay, like, I found it funny, but it was like a funny, like, like, just imagine how awkward that is to literally just be like, no, not as attractive. And it's just like, that kind of, and I mean, the thing is, like, some other aspects, like, you're just watching it and you're just like, that it's funny and you can't help but laugh, but you're literally kind of like, almost, I think like some of the moments I actually did have to pause just because I was like, so like, oh my god, I can't believe what's happening.
No, I think
so
that was
cringy.
I think that was like that. I needed just like a couple of seconds to recover.
That's
why
like,
it's such a great scene. Yeah,
because I remember there used to be like a whole subreddit for like cringe on Reddit, and like I think it eventually just turned into like bullying people, but it used to just have like some of the most, like, it would have like things where like somebody in like, say, like failed flash mobs, or like somebody in a school would like do something really awkward, and it's just like you're laughing at just how secondhand embarrassed you are, and I really appreciate that kind of humor, and it was quite common in this film.
It's good, and that's the thing, like, it is inherently funny to see somebody being stupid and then somebody else being the straight man in a comedic scene. The straight man or the straight woman, of course, except the straight person in this instance literally doesn't know they are a part of a comedy. So it is the most genuine straight man you could possibly get, which then allows Borat to be as crazy and say the most ridiculous things that he can possibly think of. Because if things were staged in like a sitcom, for instance, it would seem a bit ridiculous and unbelievable that the straight man would put up with what these people in this movie put up with. But because this is in real life, it literally can't be unbelievable. And that's why this section of comedy, this trying to make people uncomfortable, works so well. It's inherently funny, and you're taking it to the maximum it can be. This serious person, and he's trying to be normal, and this just ridiculous person. That it's a good dynamic to have in comedy, and this is as much as you can get of that as possible. Because they're not. Well, one of them isn't doing an act; they are literally being the straight one.
I think one thing with the pranks and the cringe comedy, I was thinking, is like some of the earlier pranks I liked a lot, which is or something I liked about them, which is that like they're a little less kind of mean. See, the thing is, I remember like when kind of like there were like prank videos on YouTube were like a really big thing, and it was always like, do you remember like the whole like it's a prank bro kind of meme, because it was like literally they were just doing it all the time. And one of the points people were making is like, a good prank is sort of one where if you like at the end of it you go, hey, it was a prank, the person responds by like, haha, you got me. Whereas obviously in this prank a lot of the time it is making people angry, and I think I do think it is like an interesting thing kind of morally, because like with the like pranks, for example, like I think the driving instructor and things like that, I think they probably just found it funny. Like if you came up to them afterwards and said like, oh, it was a prank, it was actually just like a joke, they'd be like, okay, that's fine. But I think with some other instances, like, if you said to like the feminists, oh yeah, he was just being sexist to you as a joke, or if you said, oh yeah, he just said that your wife was ugly as a joke, I think like you can understand it being like, okay, you still kind of insulted me, and I'm not fully okay with that. So I do think like you could make an argument of, is it a little bit mean to be making a joke out of people basically just being annoyed? And also, I mean, you got like him like kissing people in
I know, but that's the best like comedy though. Like I know, but that's the thing. It's the best. It's mean, I know, but it's not done in a serious way.
Yeah, I think that's kind of, it's one of those things where it's like ultimately it's sort of like the people could choose to have a sense of humor about it, but you kind of know they wouldn't. Like, especially like, let's say with the dinner party, like at the end of the day, and we kind of spoke about this a little bit beforehand, but like with some of the things that happen, it's very cringy, but like you feel like, well, they could just choose to have a sense of humor about it, but they probably wouldn't, and you'd be like, in a way, like, I kind of feel sorry for them, I guess. What I'm saying is, like, some of these scenes I'm watching, I'm like, I know these people wouldn't have a sense of humor about it, and that sort of makes me feel sorry for them. But I think in some sense, I'm like, I don't care.
Well, I just laugh at it, and that's what you have to do. And so, but
I will say,
a sense of humor.
I will say, because I'm nice, I do prefer the pranks where I feel like the people who are being pranked would enjoy it. But I do enjoy all of the pranks in general.
Yeah, so Michael, I think we should now talk about exposing America and Americans, this section of comedy in Borat. And, you could argue the above, making people uncomfortable, exposes Americans as well, because of the fact that they put up with Borat, which implies that they themselves are racist because they think these people are backwards, that like Borat is just some weird foreigner. He's doing all this stupid shit. Oh, that's because he's, he's an idiot because he's not from here. So, yeah, you could argue the fact that people are so tolerant kind of exposes them, although, they could just be trying to be, polite and all of that. But anyway, we shall get on to... well, firstly, there's a couple of political interviews, Michael, which don't really go anywhere. First is Bob Barr. He was this like a Republican politician, I believe, and Borat gives him cheese and says, yes, the cheese is made from the tit milk of my wife. But yeah. I don't know why more of the interview again with the it's the same thing with the black politician, like it's a obviously with the was the person trying to shove a fist in my ass a homosexual is a funny line, and that's a funny segment, but it's like is that it like I guess it wasn't really going for a political satire, but I was like could have had more from it.
I do agree.
Maybe it just wasn't funny like the rest of the interviews, but I don't know. Anyway, so we're gonna now talk about probably, well, I don't know, is it the most famous scene in the movie? Is it, Michael, the rodeo scene?
The rodeo. I knew that was what you're talking about, and I would say, probably like the most famous singular scene. I mean, I'm just trying to think.
I mean, the Pamela Anderson scene at the end is quite famous, obviously, because it features Pamela Anderson. The dinner party scene as well. There are a
lot of iconic scenes.
Yeah, there are a lot of iconic scenes, and the most famous I think is probably the rodeo one, because in terms of exposing Americans and getting them to say the quiet part out loud,
take them out and hang them.
High five. Like Sacha Baron Cohen probably couldn't believe that he said that. Like it's like he struck gold, isn't it?
Yes,
Michael. That's what he must have been feeling, right?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's like it's so. Yeah, like it's just, and like he's so enthusiastic about it, and I just love it. I think that line is one of the most famous lines, because in terms of like, I guess, well, particularly in terms of like this theme of like exposing Americans, I think a lot of the other stuff, which we're gonna basically we've started off, I think, with like the golden nugget, because I do think after this it gets like not quite as like...
The frat both one is good as well, I will say.
Oh yeah, the frat bro one.
We can't forget that, but this one is great. I don't know how they found him, but they did. And he's saying, Borat should shave his moustache so he looks Italian, because he looks a bit Muslim, and whenever he sees a Muslim, he's wondering what kind of bomb he's got. And I love the line when he asks Borat, "Are you a Muslim?" And Borat goes, "No, I am Kazakh. I follow the hawk," and he makes a hawk like thing with his hands. It's just a beautiful bit of improv there. And and then of course the guy goes on to say, when they win the war over there and kick their butts, then you will be accepted, but not until then. And it's hilarious.
It's a beautiful message.
I know it's hilarious. He's saying that the same week America pulls out of Afghanistan. Or started the
that's funny. Actually.
the withdrawal process, and of course then he speaks in front of the crowd. He's revving them up. May George Bush drink the blood of every man, woman, and child in Iraq, and they all cheer for it as well. It's like fucking great.
So great.
Yeah, and then of course he sings the national anthem wrong, which is it's classic. Well, he just sings the Kazakhstani national anthem. Again that's funny, and they all boo. Like it's just what a scene. Like what a I think I read that there was a news report on what happened.
Yeah, I could see that happening. Yeah, there must have been like some overlap between, what Borat was actually doing, and because he was doing some high profile stuff. Yeah, and like people would report on it and take it seriously. Yeah, because obviously people were taking it seriously when this was happening.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and obviously, there's a couple more instances like this. The hotel receptionist. Remember when he doesn't like Borat is speaking African American slang?
Yes, hey, my homies.
Yeah, skeet. We're just a couple of pimps. That was a good transition from him talking to African Americans to then going into this fancy hotel and saying the slang and just immediately getting kicked out. And then a couple of scenes later, he's talking with the gun owner, and he asks him, what is the best gun to deal with killing a Jew? And the gun owner answers it, or the gun shop owner answers it sincerely, just brilliant. And then when he picks up the gun and says, "Come along and make my debut," and the cuts of the gun owner just laughing like, that was a good one. Again, I like that one. Just brilliant little scene that was. And then we get onto the etiquette coach, who of course has Borat attending a private dinner. It's an eating club in the South. And during the dinner, of course, he offends the other guests when he lets Linnell, an African-American prostitute, into the house and shows her to the table, and they are both kicked out. Now, Michael, you said before this wasn't exposing Americans, because if you had a dirty prostitute at your dinner table, you'd kick them out easily, because those people are vermin. But I'm not like you.
Yes.
I'm of the opinion that this is... that if that were to happen, you shouldn't kick somebody out just because... they're a sex worker. You should treat everybody with respect, regardless of their position. And I know to a classist person like yourself, that's a weird concept. But the muck. Yeah, exactly. But this is exposing America. The fact that they put up with Borat saying a lot of shit. Then this woman comes in, and I think the fact that Borat specifically picked a black. Or Sacha Baron Cohen specifically picked a black prostitute was again to make a point. And like immediately, it's not like. She doesn't say anything. Just immediately that they're both kicked out of the house, and and that's the thing. They talk. One of them, you said one of the others was, of course, well, this was beforehand. Was talking about Robert E. Lee, of course, as well. And it's like they put up with quite a lot from Borat, but they don't put up with a black prostitute in their house, do they?
Yeah, well, I mean, I will say one thing in kind of agreement with you, which I found funny, which is the first person who says like, I'm going to leave, is the minister.
Yes,
and. Now, Jesus had something to say about hanging out and fraternizing with prostitutes.
Yes, exactly.
And he was very pro. But, so I do think that's like I
was going to make that point,
aspect.
But you with your Christian brain make it as well. Yeah.
No, exactly. No, yeah. But the thing is, I guess like my attitude is, I feel like one of the problems is that I kind of feel like it's... I guess my only kind of thought is like that I suspect the actual reason they were offended is because I kind of think their prank alarms might have been going off. Like, that's kind of why... That's how I read it. Like, I read it like they thought to themselves, this guy's taking the piss. Because, like, especially seeing as, because while it is funny to be like, oh, the minister was the person who got offended, the reality is that the minister had already had, like, Borat say, like, that his wife was ugly. So, like, now this prostitute shows up, and I feel like, in my head, I'm imagining the minister's not thinking like, oh, this guy's making an important point about inclusion in our society. He's thinking like, okay, this guy's just trying to get some kind of reaction by just doing the most obscene things he can.
Oh, is it so to you that's obscene, inviting a prostitute?
Okay, sorry. Well,
this is the thing, you're exposing yourself, Michael.
I am, Borat. No, I mean, what I'm saying is, like, obviously, it's kind of like...
Just not to have sex, just inviting her to the dinner table just to eat.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Well, the thing is, there's like... I feel like there's an analogy that gets pointed across, but it's kind of like when there's something which you don't necessarily have a problem with, but you get the impression that somebody's doing it because they think you'll have a problem with it, and therefore you recognize they're doing it just to annoy you. That's like, I don't know. I mean, I agree with you that I am being a little bit like trying to make an excuse to the people who hate the prostitute, and also revealing that I myself
I don't know if
hate prostitutes.
I don't know if their like prank alarms start going off because of the fact that they said they're going to call the sheriff, like one of them said, and Borat goes because of the retard. Because did the retard get loose? Of course, because the guy said he's retired, and he said, "Oh, you're retard."
That was good. Yeah, physical or mental. But no, I mean, like the thing is, like basically, I agree. I think it speaks to something. I guess all I'm saying is that, like, in my head, I'm like, it's not. I don't interpret it fully. It's just like they're like, a dirty prostitute. I mean, I guess the problem is, like, I think subconsciously, I think it's probable that the reason they did interpret it as like an insult is because a dirty prostitute. But I feel like it's not. I guess like what I'm saying is like compared to a lot of the much more overtly offensive things, this is kind of just like I can understand that people have like a subconscious sense that there's like high society and low society. And while I think you can make fun of it, I think it's kind of like obviously if you just completely flout it in the most direct way possible, people are going to get annoyed. So I guess like what I'm saying is, I guess what I'm saying is like the impact of like having the prostitute show up and they'll be like, oh, it's offensive. It's not really that much more. I guess it's not like an expose moment in my mind because I'm like, well, you kind of already know that these people are going to have that attitude of like.
The point is the contrast between we're at a dinner party, we're very polite and everything, we're very nice to each other, and then this person shows up who we're going to treat them like shit, we're going to think they're shit just because of their job. And that's the point. You're exposing this culture.
Yeah.
And maybe because you have your fancy dinner parties that you like in your middle class home, Michael. Maybe you're like, I have so much sympathy for these people having to and she's black as well. God, that must be awful. That must be awful. But
I hope they counted the silverware on.
Yeah, I think there you go. Nice little racist joke you threw in there. I know you're not
because she's a prostitute.
Not
I because
see. I was being the racist there.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's I think it is, and of course, well, whatever you think, the exposing.
But have you considered that they don't see race?
Yeah, exactly. And you combine that with the cringe. It's just a beautiful.
No, I am fine with it as a expose. I just don't consider it as hard hitting as some of the other ones. Such as, what's another one, Luke?
Well, I mean,
so
you can't do that, like such as, and then not say anything.
I know, it's fine. Such as, okay, if we're going to talk about, let's say, rich Southern heritage, which I think we see in the dinner party. Obviously, it's in Birmingham, Alabama, I believe, the dinner party. But I tell you where else you can find some rich Southern heritage. The antique store.
Yeah, the antique store where Borat clumsily breaks various Confederate heritage items. I don't know what that scene was because the antique shop owners just did not seem that annoyed by it. So I was like, have they like placed this there and have they set this up? But I don't know. Apparently not. Maybe those antique items just aren't that valuable. But yeah, that was a good scene. And then of course, Borat's truck runs out of fuel, and of course, Asmat abandons him. That's the thing we didn't talk about with the plot. They had the Asmat abandoning him and. That was again a bit of plot thrown in this movie, and of course he begins to hitchhike to California, and he is soon picked up by a drunken fraternity brothers from the University of South Carolina, and he talks to them, and of course one of them says, you don't call a woman back because you don't have or she doesn't have his respect. That's why you don't call. And he's because they don't have a telephone. That was a good line. He's like, no, because. She doesn't have your respect, that's why. And then someone asks, are women your slaves in Russia? It's so great that he said Russia as well, even though he said he's from Kazakhstan. And and then Borat says, no. And then he goes, well, we wish we had... no, Borat asked them, do you have slaves here? And he goes, we wish we had slaves. That was good. That was a good twist from Sacha Baron Cohen there. It's just like, I can get these people to talk about slavery, and of course with the context of American history in the South and slavery, that was a good segue. And here's the thing: I thought actually initially they were talking about having women as slaves.
Yes, I thought the same thing.
Sex slaves or whatever. But then the other guy says minorities have more power in America. And then another guy starts talking about the Jews. I was like, okay, that's what they're talking about, slaves in the context of, we should have slaves.
What alphas? What red-pilled alphas?
Yeah, exactly. But to be fair, like the drunk guy in the middle, he didn't say any of that shit. It was the guy who was sitting next to Borat and the fat guy. You know,
Yeah,
the guy,
yeah.
I mean, they were all drunk, but the guy who was really drunk in the middle, who had like a shaved head, he didn't actually say any of that. So
Yeah, ironically, the person who was an actual skinhead was the least racist.
exactly. But yeah, again, just absolute gold. But that's the thing. This was, I believe, it was just random luck. He was hitchhiking, and he got picked up. Like, just what incredible luck! Like, it's that scene was lightning in a bottle.
Yeah,
And
I mean, it's I don't know. Sorry, I was just gonna say it's so interesting because obviously, like, they presumably would have been told the whole documentary thing.
yeah, but they still.
And I mean, obviously, like they would have been very drunk, which I guess you could say. I mean, so I don't want to say it takes much of the sting out of it because obviously, like, a standard point that can be made is that a lot of the time when somebody's drunk, you know, if depending on the things they say when they're drunk, that does reveal something about them. Like, you know, I don't think you or I would be overtly racist and sexist.
But they let down their inhibitions when they're drunk.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's always the thing with alcohol. You know, you basically say what you or do what you actually want to do. But anyway, I mean, at least, you know, they were sweet when they consoled Borat when he finds out about the Pamela Anderson isn't a virgin. That was so fun.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I mean, even then, like, it's kind of interesting because it is like they're having a fun time.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely, like, it looks like they're having a really fun time. And I think it kind of like speaks to the fact that there is like a general like camaraderie with like frat bros, and I guess like how that can facilitate the spread of like I let's say edgy ideas, by which of course I mean like overtly racist and sexist, but you kind of like imagine in some sense like maybe part of it is like they're saying it just because they know it's like offensive, like we don't care, bro. Like, I don't know, like say like because then they literally have like a line that's like America got worse after slavery ended.
Oh, yeah,
it's kind of like
yeah.
I mean, you know, do they actually sincerely believe that, or is it just like an edgy thing to say?
This is the thing. You always are like, oh, are actually people that bad? Yes.
No, okay, yeah. The thing is, like, I'm not denying that there are people that bad, but what I'm saying is, like, there's lots of people. Like, when I think about like frat bros, I think of like people who would say like things that just like they're like fucking. I mean, like, I guess like I'm saying like with the frat bro thing, I feel like a lot of it's performative, but I agree. The thing is, I will stress, like, I think it's obvious. Like, I find like the line about like how minorities have more power. Like, I think that line is almost in a way like worse because like that line there's no like edge to that. It's just like genuinely what this guy believes, which shows how ignorant they are.
Yeah, and
like, at least,
maybe the lines about slavery were we should bring that back is know,
but it still speaks to like a truth.
But exactly, it speaks to the fact that these guys are just racist, and that's the thing. It's just a random
I know, yeah, it's so
bros and look, they're racist. But again, it was just absolutely incredible that Sacha Baron Cohen and of course the production team managed to get these guys. And
I mean, presumably they would have been talking like this is another example of where like you imagine how long they would have been talking for. So it's like, you know,
like 3 hours maybe. And it's like 5 minutes of footage. But that's
like great opportunity to get some footage because
it's perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah. The thing is, like, almost like in that case, I would not be surprised if there are a lot of deleted scenes that would have also been like very interesting.
Well, there is quite a few deleted scenes. Yeah. So again,
especially for like that bit.
I'm not sure why it was only 1 hour 23 long, but anyway.
That bit, like, I definitely like because like those frat bros must have been saying so much.
Yeah. But anyway, we get on to the next bit of exposing America, where Borat attends a United Pentecostal camp meeting at which Republican U.S. Representative Chip Pickering and Mississippi Supreme Court Chief Justice James W. Smith Jr. Christ, I'll say that again. Mississippi Supreme Court Chief Justice James W. Smith Jr.
Wow.
What a title. Their presence. And again, you know, the pastor is putting his hand on his head. It's just the best, you know. Crazy things happen in Kazakhstan, but you know, this is as crazy as it gets. That's the impression I got, and you know, that's what I think overall about this section or this category of comedy. You know, Borat, of course, is clearly meant to be like backwards. You know, that is very much what his character is, and you know, he's from a backwards place as well. But it shows that you know, this section, a large part of America, is also like backwards. Like, they think the same misogynistic things that Borat has said.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And you know, they laugh at what he says or agree with him. And you know, and particularly that scene at the end with the church, it's like, okay, you can mock like crazy Kazakhstani customs or look how ridiculous, I mean, the hypothetical things are in Kazakhstan or in Eastern Europe, but like that right there with the guy speaking in tongues, pushing his hand into Borat's head. Like, that's America, like the greatest nation on earth, and that's just, you know, you have prominent politicians there. That's just the craziness you get in that country. Yeah,
Well, sorry, I was just gonna say it was interesting because obviously this film I think came out like a year after Jesus Camp.
that's the same year.
Really the same year? That's really interesting because obviously Jesus Camp was also a Pentecostal thing and also featured a line which literally could have come from Borat. I always remember the line of the minister in the Pentecostal church who says she basically says there are Muslim kids in Palestine who are strapping bombs to themselves because they believe in their religion so much, and that's what we need our kids. We need our kids to have that kind of faith because we have the truth. And it's kind of like that line of basically saying we need our kids to have the kind of faith where they'll strap bombs to themselves. That feels like a line where you can imagine Borat literally getting someone to admit to that. But yeah, basically it also
that was a
it
big
seems
year.
kind of weird
Sorry, that was a big year
for Pentecostals.
For exposing how crazy that right-wing evangelical section of America was. The one that back then at least adored George W. Bush. Yeah, because obviously he wins 2000 and he wins in 2004, and then around this time 2005-06 he starts to become really unpopular, his government, and it's okay, let's go in, we can start exposing all the shit going on, all his supporters and how rabid and crazy they are. And that's part of, I think, what Borat wanted to do, and I guess it was a real eye-opener for a lot of people in the UK, just like Jesus Camp would be. But of course, and this was a point that was, this is a next point I want to get onto, that was made in a video from Lindsay Ellis, which I watched, which she compared Borat in 2020 to Borat in 2006. And of course, we'll talk more about that video next week because she mainly focuses on the Borat in 2020.
I'll watch that video in advance of next week because I didn't even know it was
I watched it, and basically she says it's kind of all this stuff about exposing America, it's kind of outdated because, well, America has been exposed quite a lot over the past few years because of Donald Trump and all the shit that his supporters have done and said. Obviously, he had the Capitol riot just this year. And that was made after Lindsay Ellis did the video because she made it in November, or it was published in November 2020 because she talked about Biden being elected and how it was this new thing that just happened. And obviously you had, of course, the Unite the Right rally in 2017. You don't really need Sacha Baron Cohen going to these weird or interviewing these weird people and get them to agree with anti-Semitic stuff when you just have people chanting on the streets of Charlottesville Jews will not replace us. It's well, what's the point of Borat then if that is what's happening? And so it is all this stuff the frat bros and the guy at the rodeo. It's oh wow, look at that, that's crazy. God, well done. That's some really good finds there. But then over the past few years, and as well with the internet, you can just have random people saying random shit all the time, uploading videos of themselves onto YouTube or posting on Facebook or any other type of comment exposing their true beliefs. It's oh well, that isn't that those interviews back in 2006 aren't that revelatory because just more stuff has come out. But at the time it was, of course. But yeah, just right now it doesn't seem that incredible because of what has happened in the years after it was released.
No, yeah, I mean, also, I was just going to say, sorry, on that note, Pentecostals seem much less of a thing now. I don't know why, but, you used to hear about, these massive, faith revival meetings and, the proper, people running up to the stage and, scream. Because you literally see that in this film, people running up and
Borat
just,
should have done that.
In the middle. Yeah, well, yeah, that's the thing, yeah. That's the thing, the problem is you can't even parody that. I don't think you can parody full on. They're called charismatics. Also, it's the more general term for it. People who literally their whole shtick is they just feel the spirits. They have to run up and start screaming and shouting about how much they're feeling. And you see the guy speaking in tongues. But yeah, that I don't know why that seems to be I don't know if it's just that you don't see it because
no, actually I have seen a couple of. It's because of COVID. You have these right wing crazy right wing pastors going just chanting about COVID. And saying, God
actually, I remember seeing this guy we're gonna exorcise the demon of COVID.
Yeah, exactly. And that shit. But that's the thing. Because of the internet, you can see these pastors do that, and you don't need Borat going undercover to expose this because it's just that out there on the internet. So yeah, that's another way. How
definitely.
How his shtick has become, or his shtick back in 2006 at least, has become outdated. Of course, we'll talk about what he does in his subsequent movie film next week, because that's the movie we're doing next week. Yeah. But yeah, I also want to touch on another subject now, Michael, which is great gasp, which is this movie too offensive, or is it just offensive in general? I guess and the reason I'm gonna say no, it's not offensive. When he's talking, when Borat is making, anti-Semitic remarks, when he's
giving money to cockroaches because he thinks they're Jews.
Yeah, that's such a funny. He's throwing money at the cockroaches, but that is an inherently stupid thing, and he is an inherently stupid character. Like, you clearly should not take what he says seriously at all. So all the awful things he says, given that context, become funny. I mean, the joke isn't what he says or what he does. The joke is the fact that he is saying it out loud, or actually doing that, like the throwing money at the cockroaches, or saying anti-Semitic stuff about Jews growing horns and all that. And he thinks it's okay. I mean that is for me why this is it's not offensive, because it's clearly such a ridiculous character. Like, how could you? I mean, of course, people can take stuff from it, but anyone with a brain, like, his intention is pretty clear. It's like all this shit is ridiculous, and it's ridiculous because how can you get a more ridiculous character than Borat? So I don't think it is anti-Semitic or offensive or problematic or anything like that, because of that context.
Yeah,
because of that context. What do you think?
I mean, well, also I think the other thing is, like, you look at like the Jewish characters in this film that are actually shown in this film, like the one depiction of actual Jewish people in this film, they're really nice. So it's kind of like, it's like the film itself kind of offers a very robust counter-narrative to the jokey anti-Semitism that is present within it. So that's, like, pretty solid reason to say, like, the message of this film can't be construed as anti-Semitic. I mean, I think this kind of like identity politics stuff can be a bit silly, but like, it's worth noting Sacha Baron Cohen is also Jewish, so obviously it's not to say, like, obviously Jewish people can perpetuate anti-Semitism just as black people can perpetuate racism and women can perpetuate sexism, but it's just worth bearing in mind as a little bit of context. He's not like some Aryan Nazi.
Well, but that's the overall thing. What matters more than, obviously, like,
who he is
like the actual context.
Yeah, I agree with that. And yeah, definitely, like, the context is very, again, like, I mean, the thing is, like, I will say this, I don't know if you could say, like, it's meaningfully satirizing. Well, I suppose it kind of is satirizing anti-Semitism, mostly within, like, the context of Eastern Europe. I mean, I know he has that line in the gun shop, like, if I shoot a Jew, but to be honest, like, I feel like that gun shop owner, I don't know, like, the thing is, when I think about Americans, I don't usually think of Americans as, like, anti-Semitic, and I kind of just get the impression the gun shop owner was just like, okay,
I mean,
shoot that Jew.
Probably casually anti-Semitic.
Yeah. I think it's kind of like, they probably find, like,
jokes about Jews.
I guess the
funny.
problem is they probably find jokes about Jews funny, which is what I was basically saying. So yeah, I think again, it probably falls into the category of, like, there will be people who watch this film and just think, yeah, Jews.
But that's the thing. Like, if you think that, then you're fucking stupid. Because Borat, how much he is clearly a ridiculous character. The fact that he is so ridiculous and saying these ridiculous things, he's so ridiculous and saying these things, surely communicates to the viewer that these things are completely ridiculous. I don't know how anybody else can think anything other than that. That's the thing. And again, when he calls the woman an old man, I mean, we found that hilarious, and it is, because it's obviously offensive, and you can't say it, but this ridiculous guy says it, this stupid, absurd man called Borat Sajayev from Kazakhstan. And so, it's acceptable because you're not meant to take him seriously. You're meant to laugh at the fact that he said it, not the actual content of what he said. Yeah, and that is what a lot of the humor is in this movie, and that's why it works, and that's why it's funny. And I mean, I'm sorry, like, if anything, it's anti, like, racist, because it's like lampooning people who think like this or say things like this. If anything, that is, it's, I mean, I wouldn't say it's an anti-racist movie necessarily, like, it's a comedy more than anything. But if you're gonna ask me which, like, side does it fall on, it's like, if anything, it's anti-racist, because the guy who says it, again, context matters more than context matters so much when you're making a joke. And that is pretty crucial to understand, Michael. But anyway, Michael, so that's that bit done. That's my little rant on that, saying no, this movie isn't offensive. As a straight white male, I can say that. No, I think my argument probably held up. But we'll get into now the aftermath, because of course controversy surrounded the film. After its release, some participants in Borat spoke against and even sued its creators, and it was banned in all Arab countries, and the government of Kazakhstan denounced the film. So a lot of interesting stuff there. But we'll go through the participants response first, Michael. The people who are actually in the movie.
Yes.
So after the film's release, Dharma Arthur, a news producer for WAPT in Jackson, Mississippi, so Borat appeared on her news station, and apparently it led to her losing her job because of him. This is what she said: "My boss lost faith in my abilities and second-guessing everything I did thereafter. How upsetting that a man who leaves so much in his path is applauded as a comedic genius. So much harm in his path." Although Arthur has said she was fired from the show, she told the Associated Press that she resigned from the station. And to that I would say, well, I mean, yeah, you should have probably checked. Like, I mean, check if this guy is legit or not. I mean, maybe Borat gave a normal interview and was just absolutely crazy when he was up on stage. Or up actually, on the TV, like he was fine and then was crazy. But I mean, that's bad. But I mean, I just think it's a funny scene, and of course, the boss should have been more reasonable. In my opinion.
Basically, you can't really blame like Borat or Sacha Baron Cohen for people's reactions. I mean, like at the end of the day, I kind of already hinted at the fact that I think like ultimately I can understand people getting annoyed and I guess being
but there's only like one Borat
by...
not every guest is
exactly,
it'd be stupid to say this guest
exactly
Borat, whatever.
No, exactly, so basically I think as for that example I pretty much agree with you that like at the end of the day if she wants to be a news reporter, well, she's going to have like weird strange guests, so it's kind of like that's you've got to be prepared for that kind of thing. And
apparently she resigned as well, so she wasn't fired. I don't know. Also, this is about the rodeo scene. In news coverage that aired in January 2005 of the filming of the rodeo scene, Bobby Rowe, producer of the Salem, Virginia rodeo depicted in the film, stated that he felt he had been the victim of a hoax. So basically, after the film's release, Rowe said, "Some people come up to me and say, 'Hey, you made the big time.' I've made the big time, but not in the way I want it." Also, the Salon Arts and Entertainment site quotes the Berhars, the Jewish couple at whose guest house Borat and Azmat stay, as calling the film. What did the Jewish couple call the film, Michael? Do you want to have a guess?
Oh, I mean, did they respond negatively? Did they call it anti-Semitic?
They called it outstanding. Referring to Baron Cohen as a very lovely and very polite and a genius. The Boston Globe also interviewed the couple, saying they considered the film more anti-Muslim than anti-Semitic and had feared that Baron Cohen and his ensemble might be filming pornography in the house. So again, they didn't consider it anti-Semitic. And I guess they consider it they consider it anti-Muslim maybe because of what that guy at the rodeo was saying about Muslims. And he obviously wasn't Borat. That's the thing. No time does a guest or someone that's speaking to say actually anything anti-Semitic. The only time that happens is when it comes out of Borat himself. The feminists from the Veteran Feminists of America.
Oh, I'm interested in this one.
Yes, felt that they had been duped, having said something odd was going on before and during the interview. The Guardian later reported at least one of the women felt that the film was worth going to see at the cinema. So that's interesting. Yeah, they were like, that's the thing. Like, it's not mocking feminism. It's it's mocking. Yeah, it's anything. It's not really mocking anything. It's just look how stupid this guy is saying this ridiculous stuff. But yeah, again, if anything, it's mocking people who say that kind of stuff about women because of the vehicle who's saying it, which is of course Borat, this stupid, absurd character. The New York Post reported in November 2006. This is very interesting. See if you know this, Michael. That Pamela Anderson filed for divorce from her husband. Do you know who her husband was, Michael?
David Hasselhoff.
It was Kid Rock. And he reacted unfavourably to the film during a screening. The Post article claimed he had said of her role in the film, "You're nothing but a whore, you're a slut, how could you do that movie?" In an interview on the Howard Stern show, Anderson confirmed that Rock was upset by her appearance in the film, but did not confirm this was the cause of the separation. And apparently, Sacha Baron Cohen messaged Pamela Anderson after the movie came out, and Pamela Anderson said she's getting a divorce and it was because of the movie, and Sacha Baron Cohen was like, well, that must be a joke, but apparently maybe it wasn't, I don't know, but I think Pamela Anderson absolutely fine that one, you divorced Kid Rock because of who Kid Rock is, but two, if he wanted
my name is Kid
Rock.
Kid Rock.
And obviously, the fact that he wanted to divorce you over this movie where she was just in it for 2 minutes and she was like signing stuff. I don't know how she's a slut or a whore for that. Like how you could come to that.
Yeah, like the only thing it could possibly be with reference to is the porno or the sex tape.
Maybe he didn't know.
That she'd already. Maybe that's how. Maybe he was like Borat.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe what happened is he hitchhiked with some frat bros and they showed him the film Borat.
Oh my god, that would be great. That'd be fucking
Yeah.
great. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
how some participants felt about the movie. Again, kind of mixed, but there was legal action by the participants of the movie as well. So the villagers of Glod, Romania, took legal action against the producers of Borat, complaining that they were lied to about the nature of the filming and they were portrayed as incestuous and ignorant. Some say they were paid only 3 li, about $1.28 in 2004. Each, while others stated they were paid between $70 and $100 each, which did not cover their expenses. The residents asked for $38 million in damages. Basically, yeah, the lawsuit was thrown out on the allegations it was too vague. Basically, and again in April 2008, the case was dismissed again. So yeah, this is probably the one.
Yeah, stupid villagers.
Yeah, this was probably the one area where I'm like, yeah, this wasn't great. Like, just at least pay them enough. Like,
Yeah. If that's true, yeah. Basically, I mean. Yeah, like at the end there, and also I think the other thing is here, like, he didn't need to lie to them. So if he did dismiss them or mislead them, then
well, maybe they wouldn't do it.
Like, well, you'd think like he would be able to find like some village that would be willing to like be the set for the show, who would understand the humor. Like, I guess what I'm saying is like most other times, like obviously you have to lie to lots of the other people. Like at the rodeo guy, if you say to him, actually this is for a comedy making fun of you, he's not going to sign a release. But in this case, like, you'd think if there's not like a single village in Romania that's going to be like, okay, you know what?
Yeah.
Or in the whole of Eastern Europe, yeah, that's going to be like, okay, you know what? We understand that this is just a comedy. We're willing to do this and, you know, like basically do it all above board, you know, get paid as extras. Oh, by the way, I found out recently that my mum was an extra in a film when, okay, no rude jokes, Luke. It's my mother when she lived in Spain, and she was showing me some photos from it. And the thing is, like, and this is the interesting thing, she was dressed up as like a Muslim woman, so she was in like a headscarf with a veil. I think the film was like, so it was filmed in Spain, but I think it was set in the Middle East.
Okay.
I was like, oh, that's interesting. Important thing being that being an extra is a lot of fun, I assume, because you get to tell your children about it
and
one
like
day.
the extras in Striptease who got to see Demi Moore naked, who lined up for hours to do that.
Yeah, exactly. See, like, so why wouldn't you? I guess that should have been like Pamela Anderson. I was going to say that she could have sweetened the deal.
Oh wow!
By being, like,
wow!
For the,
That's what you think of women, huh? Wow.
I know. I knew you'd say. I knew you'd
Anyway,
try to.
anyway,
you know,
that's a joke, obviously, but we'll get on to this is the best bit. So, two of the legal action from the participants. So, two of the University of South Carolina fraternity brothers who appeared in the film, Justin Say and Christopher Rotunda, sued the producers, claiming defamation. The suit by Shea and Rotunda was dismissed, and the students also sought an injunction to prevent the DVD release of the film, which was denied. So yes, again, I don't know what legal footing they would have to stand on if they signed the papers. They just filmed them. They didn't do anything else. Like, I don't know what case they had. They were just very embarrassed, as they should be. Another lawsuit was filed by a South Carolina resident who said he was accosted by Baron Cohen in the bathroom at a restaurant in downtown Columbia, with the actor allegedly making comments regarding the individual's genitalia. The lawsuits also sought to have footage excluded from any DVD releases and removed from internet video sites. So that's interesting, but of course we didn't see that in the movie.
Yeah, that's interesting, yeah.
Okay, here's another good one. Felix Sadino, a 31-year-old American, sued 20th Century Fox for $2.25 million. Why did he do that, Michael? You're never going to guess.
I don't know.
Because he was filmed as a part of the scene where a live chicken fell out of Borat's suitcase on the subway.
Oh, yeah.
So he felt that he was entitled to $2.25 million worth of damages.
Yeah, that makes sense. He did. He was, to be fair, Borat literally showed him his cock without consent.
There we go. Sadino later dropped the suit and received nothing. Baltimore resident Michael Pesenitska saw
This is a gay guy.
Yeah, more than this is the driving instructor, I think.
Okay, sorry.
More than $100,000 in damages from Baron Cohen. He was a teacher who also owns a driving school. Was paid $500 in cash to give Baron Cohen's bogus Kazakh journalist a driving lesson, and basically the driving instructor said he had been lied to, and if he had known the film's true nature, he would never have participated. And the case was also dismissed. So yeah, a lot of dismissals here. Again, they were watertight, these lawyers, apparently. Jeffrey Lemerond, who was shown running and yelling "Get away" as Borat attempted to hug strangers on a New York street, filed a legal case claiming his image was used in the film illegally, and that he suffered public ridicule, degradation, and humiliation as a result. The case was also dismissed. Maybe you should have just run away from him, shouting, "Get away from me." Baron Cohen reacted to these lawsuits by commenting, "Some of the letters I get are quite unusual, like the ones where the lawyer informed me I'm about to be sued for $100,000, and at the end says, P.S. Love the movie, can you sign a poster for my son Jeremy?" Which is quite interesting. But yeah, again, like, I think the Romania one, is probably the only one I'm like, yeah, you should have done better there. But
Yeah,
the rest is like, nah, you haven't got a leg to stand on, legally at least. So there's the reception in Kazakhstan next up,
Yes,
Michael. So
they loved it.
Yeah, the government of Kazakhstan first denounced Borat in 2005 following Borat's appearance at the MTV Movie Awards. The country's foreign minister threatened to sue Sacha Baron Cohen, and Borat's Kazakh-based website was taken down because of that. Kazakhstan also launched a multi-million-dollar Hearts of Eurasia campaign to counter the Borat effect. Baron Cohen replied by denouncing the campaign at an in-character press conference in front of the White House as the propaganda of the evil nitwits of Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan is throughout the film referred to by Borat as his nation's second leading problem, with the first being the Jews. In 2006, Kazakh TV personality, I can't say the name, I won't, but it's a very long name, travelled to London with the stated aim of presenting Baron Cohen with horse meat and horse urine, which were claimed by Borat to be the national food and drink of Kazakhstan, although he was unable to organise a meeting with him. Again, that would have been funny.
Yeah.
In 2006, Gemini Films, the Central Asian distributor of 20th Century Fox, complied with the Kazakh government request not to release the film. That year, Kazakh ambassador to the UK, after viewing the film, called parts of the film funny and wrote that the film had placed Kazakhstan on the map. I would agree, it had. And by 2012, Kazakh Foreign Minister Yerzen Kazikhanov attributed a great rise in tourism to his country, with visas issued rising 10 times to the film, saying, "I am grateful to Borat for helping attract tourists to Kazakhstan." Yeah, so that's the thing. Maybe they didn't like it at first, but eventually they came round to it. And again, there's this interview with some guy on the BBC who said that many of his colleagues in the Kazakh media saw the character of Borat as a valuable PR opportunity. According to him, some of the Kazakhs who were most upset by the film were studying in the United States and UK, who understood the film's satirical intent, felt their non-Kazakh peers were taking the film at face value as an accurate portrayal of the country. Yeah, it's ridiculous if you think that, but people sometimes are ridiculous. He suggested that interest in the character inside the country faded once Kazakhs grasped the film was designed to get an outsider's view of the US and reveal the prejudices of the Americans who Borat interacts with, functioning as a sort of 21st century Alexis de Tocqueville. Basically, what you essentially get is, there are some drawbacks, but overall people are like, you know what, it's good for Kazakhstan, this movie. And the Kazakh tabloid Caravan described Borat to be the best film of the year, having seen a review of the film of Vienna. And the paper said it was certainly not anti-Kazakh, anti-Romanian or anti-Semitic, but rather cruelly anti-American, amazingly funny and sad at the same time. And I'd say, that's a very good sum up, Kazakh Kazakh tabloid Caravan. God, why do they love the letter K so much? Anything to say on that, Michael?
No, I mean, basically, I pretty much would agree. I can understand why it is that, like, you see your country represented in a way that's completely not reflective of how your country actually is. I mean, I'd imagine Kazakhstan has some issues of kind of like poverty, but obviously, I think that, Kazakhstan is Central Asian. It's not Eastern European. And therefore, I think like they'd probably be like, well, this isn't really what we're actually about. And in that sense, you would kind of be annoyed that you're misrepresented. But I think having said that, I mean, obviously they say the only kind of bad publicity is no publicity. And so therefore, this was an improvement. Because at the end of the day, like what Kazakhstan can do, once they've got the Borat thing established, they can actually then try to show how Kazakhstan really is. And they can kind of like build off of the familiarity people have with Kazakhstan in order to be like, hey, if tourists are coming, well, the tourists who are coming are going to see what Kazakhstan's really like. And I'm sure it's got a lot of really interesting things there. So basically, obviously, if you're going to be misrepresented, that kind of sucks. But at the end of the day, it's not as if Kazakhstan was a country that was on anybody's radar beforehand. So this is actually an opportunity to get an image out there, based on the familiarity, and an image that will more accurately represent them. But obviously it does suck that people would be racist to somebody. Well, I don't know, like racist is a bit of a strong word, but let's say make kind of like stupid, kind of slightly annoying and probably repetitive jokes to somebody if they find out they're from Kazakhstan. Yeah, that's going to be annoying. And I imagine if you are from Kazakhstan, you don't want to tell people that because they're just like, oh, very nice. And you're like, yep, never heard that one before. But, that's how it is.
Yeah, before, Michael, when you mentioned that, Kazakhstan wasn't on the map before, a Kazakh novelist literally suggested Baron Cohen be nominated for the annual award bestowed by the Kazakh Club of Art Patrons because apparently Borat managed to spark an immense interest in the whole world in Kazakhstan, something our authorities could not do during the years of independence. If state officials completely lack a sense of humour, their country becomes a laughingstock. So there you go. Borat may be a hero in Kazakhstan. I'm not sure. And yeah, basically in March 2012, the parody national anthem from the film soundtrack, which acclaims Kazakhstan for its high quality potassium exports and having the second cleanest prostitutes in the region, was mistakenly played at the Emir of Kuwait's International Shooting Grand Prix. The gold medalist Maria Dermatiyenko stood on the dials while the entire parody was played. The team complained and the award ceremony was restaged. The incident apparently resulted from the wrong song being downloaded from the internet. That would have been, I think I saw a video of that, like obviously 9 years ago. That, yeah, would have been hilarious. And she just had to stand there while it was being played. I don't know, maybe because it's in English, she didn't know what was being said, what it was. But yeah, that is quite funny. So yeah, overall, Borat again. Maybe you think, well, this isn't good for Kazakhstan, but if tourism increases 10 times, yeah, of course, people being mean to Kazakh people, it sucks. But you know what? I think overall it has benefited.
Yeah, it's for the greater good.
It's for the greater good, Michael. It's for the greater good. So Kazakhstan can't complain. So time to conclude, Michael. You go first.
Yeah, so basically, I'll start with the bad things first. This film, it doesn't have like a particularly... I was like, the political points of this film really aren't like that coherent. I think we spoke about the fact that a lot of the interviews kind of get cut short quite prematurely. It feels like you don't really get to kind of the meat of the issue. You have a prominent black politician being interviewed and you think to yourself, oh, I want to hear, some decent satire about racial politics maybe. And you don't get that. And yeah, it does seem like there isn't much of a clear thrust to a lot of the political criticism, and it does kind of feel like a lot of it is just like, oh look, Americans, aren't they just bizarre? And I think if there's an enduring theme, it's probably just like how insane America's kind of rabid patriotism is. Like that, I'd say, is like the most crazy thing. But yeah, overall, I'd say like the political commentary doesn't quite home. But that's my only criticism, because aside from that, I think like the way like the plot is handled, I think is perfect. I don't think you can have any criticism of it. And I think, lots of funny moments are incorporated into the plot. And even like the certain like improv moments are incorporated into the plot in quite an interesting way. And of course, finally, the actual comedy itself is just fantastic. And obviously, as I already said, it's sort of subjective. Like if somebody's going to say, well, I watched this film and I didn't laugh once, I didn't find it funny, I can't say, yes, you did. But all I can say is, well, I watched it and I found it really funny. The shock humor, the cringe humor, the pranks, the character humor, everything just was like, just made me laugh so much. And because of that, I'm going to give this film an 8. I'm going to give it, I think I'm going to give it just a low 8. I'd put it higher if I liked the politics more. But yeah, very, 8's a good score. But yeah, I think I'll go for low 8.
Okay. Yeah, I want to say the thing with this movie is, I mean, we can't really just analyze this because we have to go through everything, but it is just so funny. Like, the plot is all you need from the movie, and that's fine. And it, basically it's all about these scenes with Sacha Baron Cohen talking to these unsuspecting participants, and I just kept thinking throughout the movie, like, just how funny it was. Like, it just never stopped being funny. Like, it's crazy. It is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. Like, there's not some like highlights. Like, literally every scene, everything that Borat says is a highlight. It's crazy how good it is. And like I said, it's that's all it needs to be. This is a comedy movie. Don't really care about the plot. And you say the politics, the politics didn't really have a point apart from just pointing out how dumb some Americans were. I mean, that's all it needs to do if its main objective is to be funny, and it certainly was. So yeah, I don't have a real problem with that. Of course, there is a limit to how funny or how high up a comedy movie can go. But I am going to give it, I think, an 8.5 out of 10, Michael. Again, yeah, just again, if ever you're feeling down, watch this movie, because it is truly hilarious. And that is, that's what Sacha Baron Cohen clearly set out to do. That was his thing that he tried to do the most, and he fully achieved that. It is side splitting, as they say. You will be laughing so much, and yeah, that's all you asked for from this movie, and it delivered. So Michael, what are we doing next week?
Well, Luke, next week we are reviewing, predictably, Borat 2, subsequent movie film.
Borat subsequent movie film. Yeah, the one that was released in 2020. Yes. So thank you for listening. We have been selecting and reflecting on Borat, the first one, and I'm not going to say the full title. And join us next week for the second Borat, subsequent movie film. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Goodbye.